Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Velocity Online Racing, and welcome to Season 4 of the Apex Hunters Motorsports W12 League. This is round number 1 of this season, coming to you tonight from Monza. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Mark Samad. Julien Altena is our producer for today's broadcast, using track cams by trackcams22.com and onboard cams by Julien Altena. Well, Mark, we now stand at the precipice of a brand new season here in a league that you have fond memories of and a lot of experience with. Here in these W12s running at Monza, the Temple of Speed, to kick this 15-round championship off. This is going to be certainly a trial by fire here in Italy.
Yeah, definitely, and I'm excited to see what Jeffrey Lawler does. He had a very commanding lead last season, and it looks like he's primed to take it on again. And I think they're actually doing some team championships this year too, so I'm excited to see who's on the same team. You know, Jeffrey Lawler is super quick around this track. Every track that he's been on, he's dominated. Leon Flukiger is very close up behind him, but I see some new faces too, so very excited to see how they turn out.
Yeah, of course, the star of the season last season was Jeffrey Lawler, able to capture yet another crown in this series and showing some good pace once again right towards the tail end of qualifying. Holds on to the provisional poles. We rode on board with him, heading his way off through the top end of the racetrack. Although, from my experience in the last 2 rounds of last season's championship at the Nürburgring and the Red Bull Ring, Lawler feeling a lot more pressure as it stands right now. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go throughout this opening round of the championship. Qualifying holding a lot of importance, but really it's Monza. There are plenty of spots to get some moves done.
Yeah, absolutely, and Dirkson seems to be a new face this season, and you know, like the gap is just 1/10 between them, and that's really something we've never seen before in the league. Flukiger is usually about 1 to 2 tenths of a second behind in qualifying, so curious to see how this run for Lawler is going to look as he crosses the line. Doesn't look like he makes an improvement. He does spin out though, but does a good job to catch it.
And as we see that tremendous 360, we'll see this tremendous schedule here for this campaign. 15 rounds in all. The campaign starts off here August 16th at Monza. We head off to Circuit of the Americas, Spa, Miami, the Nürburgring. A 1-week break for one of the full-length special events here in this series that we will not be covering here on VOR, but will be run either way. And then after the Nürburgring, we have another 5-week block of Silverstone, Montréal, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, Autodromo, Hermanos Rodriguez, Portimão, and then Suzuka, Imola, the Hockenheim Ring, Spielberg, and Interlagos to bring this season to a conclusion. You know, Mark, looking at the season calendar, there are some carryover races from last season, but still a very intriguing schedule either way. If you were one of these drivers, which of those races do you think you would fear the most?
You know, Mexico City is always a really tricky one. I think it's pretty new for a lot of the drivers, and there are a lot of low-speed corners with those 90 degrees, and the last sector seems to catch everyone off guard. There is a trick. You do really need to ride those curves, but you really need to be brave around them. See if you have the grip, and since this season is open setup, they changed that, I think, halfway through the last season as well, so people are able to do their own setups in this season as well as at the end of last season, so whoever has their setup perfectly pinned for that track should be looking pretty good, but I think it's just trial by fire at that point.
Yeah, it could be a trial by fire. It could be doing jumping jacks in front of a firing squad. We'll have to see. This is one of those tracks where the setup can make a difference, but you've got to make sure that car punches a clean hole in the air. Otherwise, well, you're probably going to feel like you're dragging an anchor through asphalt heading down the many straightaways here of this racetrack. The checkered flag out now in qualifying. Drivers completing this session. It looks like Jeffrey Lawler is going to grab the first pole position here tonight, but Lucas Dirkson putting in a very good lap time there in the 096. Just about a 10.5 behind there to make up your front row, and very close there with row number 2 between Nicholas Kingswell and Leon Flukiger. That was both drivers in the 119.7. Certainly a short lap here, so that is definitely playing into the qualifying gaps being on the tighter end, but still kind of sets the seed for what could be a very competitive season ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And the track temps being as high as they are, I think it was around the 110 degrees. You know, it's going to be really interesting to see what the pit stop strategy is going to be with these guys. So I figure like a lot of the front runners are going to probably start on the mediums, but the front lefts are just going to take a beating around this track. So it looks like it's 28 degrees Celsius, partially cloudy. You don't really get too much of a, I'm not sure the direction that the wind is going, but either way, I don't think it's going to affect them too much. They're going to be on low downforce trim though, so, maybe it is going to affect them more than I say.
And taking a look at those track conditions as we now have the calm before the storm, the warm-up, it is definitely a little bit more temperate than what we had in qualifying a few moments ago. Only 113 degrees for the track temperature. That's pretty chilly. We're gonna have to break out the jackets here very, very soon. I kid, obviously. 113 degrees. That is to the point where the overheating is going to be terrible on these tires, especially if you're running on the softs. And it's also to the point where the track is starting to lose grip because it's so greasy.
Yeah, exactly. And you're really going to have to be careful around the Lesmos there. Like, especially when those tires start to degrade, it does get a little slippery, especially through the parabolica at the end. You do get a snap bit of oversteer into the parabolica, and you're just going to be right into a wall, or you're just going to not have enough grip and you're just going to understeer into the gravel. So that's going to be something to watch out for. Parabolica too, especially if you get the gravel on there, you are going to, run right into a wall, as we've seen last year or the year before, I believe, with Nicholas Kingswell. I was on track with him and Lawler. Actually, one of the rare instances that Lawler actually did go off track and hit a wall was in Monza, I think last season or the season before.
Yeah, so riding on board with some of these drivers. Again, a good look here at the 035. This is Jesus Marcabel heading his way through that first chicane, which we kind of joked a little bit before we went live here, Mark, about how tricky that may be. Lap 1 here in the opening race of this season is going to be a horrifying experience for anyone who tries to overtake it.
Yeah, and you know what? With Kingswell being in P3, he's going to be lined up right behind Lawler, and especially since, again, this is an open setup, these drivers do have the opportunity to, adjust their ERS. So I imagine right off the rip, people are going to go from, balanced right to attack. Kingswell is someone who does battle on track, so I'm excited to see if he makes a move on Lawler. It should be very fun, very interesting, but I'm hoping for a respectful turn 1 just for everyone's sake.
Yeah, we don't want to start this season off with a big pile up, but we are going to be starting this season off with a big bang, even if it isn't one out there on the racetrack. It sets the seeds for a 15-round championship. I wasn't around for when Formula One only had 15 races a year. I got into it right as we were approaching the higher teens, but this feels like a better schedule. It creates just that extra level of importance every single week. These drivers don't have to be on their A game each and every time out, but you can't really discount one of the 15 races. You've really got to be on the ball.
Yeah, exactly. And there are a few changes for this season too. I mean, I know that last season we had 2 drop weeks. So, the driver's worst weeks would be kind of taken out of the championship points calculation. But in this case, you only take 1 drop week. So that is going to be for all the marbles too. And I believe this season also does feature only 1 fast repair as opposed to 2. So people are going to have to be on the ball with their racecraft and just, giving each other space to hopefully not get into a crash. But I do see quite a few drivers testing out those hards, seeing how they are. Lawler is on the hards right now. So is Kingswell, Atkinson, and I believe I did see Flukiger on the hards as well. So interesting strategies. I believe that Lawler might go for medium soft, as he always kind of does. But I'm very curious to see how this turns out, especially if Kingswell brings on the heat.
Yeah, so this could be a very good battle for the inaugural race win here in this season. I want to thank you all for tuning into the action live on Velocity Online Racing here tonight. Velocity Online Racing delivers professional iRacing broadcasts, providing an authentic race day experience. Our custom IndyCar style overlays create a clean and immersive viewing experience reminiscent of professional motorsports broadcast. Streamed at 1440p, 60 FPS, and with expert commentary throughout, Velocity Online Racing gives your series a presentation it deserves. Broadcast packages start as low as €50 per hour. If you want to learn more about how you can broadcast your iRacing league or iRacing special event, contact velocityonlineracing@gmail.com to learn more. I want to thank you all for tuning into the action here tonight. But with warm-up now drawing to a conclusion, we can switch our attention into the opening race of this season. You brought up a fantastic point there, Mark, about what the tire selection may be for these drivers here in round number 1 of this 4th season of the Apex Hunter Motorsports W12 F1 Series. It's time to bring the action here at Monza, and let's get it all rocking and rolling by taking a look at tonight's starting grid. Jeffrey Lawler, your reigning champ, going to line up from the pole position. Lucas Dirkson behind the wheel, the fiercely forward 096 gun, join him on the front row. Nicholas Kingswell will start this race in P18. Leon Flukiger will be alongside there in row number 2. Row 3 will see Eugenio Villarreal start next to Marcus Keller there in the 1-2-3 machine, looking to be about as simple as this race as his number. Mauricio Zalva will start this race on row number 4 there, as you look at your row number 5 being Frankie Francica alongside Alec Hinchcliffe. Cesar Bustamante will start this race on row number 6 alongside Philip Allen there in the number 43 car. Willie Atkinson will be alongside Manuel Vargas there on row 7. Row 8 will see Jesus Marsabella start there with row number 9, seeing Raheem Lewis next to Keaton Jensen there on your 9th row. Row number 10 will be Willis Gomez and Pablo Uribe. And then rounding at your field here tonight will be Samuel Ray and Aiden Ray, completing your pack as the lights are at, the drivers are on their way, and we're racing here for the first time this season at Monza. It's a frantic run down to turn number 1. Already seeing cars make some contact. It's a dream start there for Lawler as he tries to lead it off into turn number 1. Keeping our eye on the pack as they head their way through the chicane. Very easy for your race to end just like that. But after a small little dust up there in the back, I believe mostly everybody has gone their way smooth, seeing a couple of drivers take to the runoff area. One driver around. I'll look to confirm who those drivers were there in the back of the pack. But it's turn 1 at Monza. That is very good by turn 1 Monza standards.
Yeah, absolutely. And most surprisingly of all, Lawler is on hards right off the race start. So I think he's going to go for a hard soft strategy. Very curious to see what that's like. But the rest of the grid, as I thought, would probably be on medium. Some of them on the softs as well, trying to make up those early places. Look along Keaton Jensen right now, getting up there. And just a reminder that the DRS zone is currently closed for the first 2 laps. So around lap 3, we're going to start to see that DRS wing flap open right back there. But again, these are low downforce trims too. So these cars are very close to top speed. As we get through the Ascari chicane, off goes, I'm not sure who that is, but that's Zavala actually off there. And yeah, it's super difficult to just follow side by side, especially on race start with those cold tires. So good on them for avoiding contact. But as you see, just getting in that gravel loses a lot of time.
Yeah, this track is old school. There are very fine little lines that you have to run around here, and if you step over the limit a little bit, the consequences will be dire. Jeffrey Lawler, though, is your race leader. One of those drivers starting on the hard tire. A call that I personally like, if I'm honest, Mark, with how scorching hot the track temperatures are. That could be a good call a little bit later on here. We'll touch on that here in a few moments' time. Do want to raise this. It was Cesar Bustamante making contact with Manuel Vargas that sent those 2 drivers in trouble as they headed their way through the opening bends. There are some more drivers spinning off around them, but overall has been a rather smooth start here at Monza as we keep an eye on the drivers already beginning to battle. This right here is Vargas trying to claw his way back from the cellar, battling right now for P12, looking for that move on Willie Atkinson, not able to make it work. One of those drivers on the medium in the case of Vargas, but Atkinson on that hard tire, which will wrap it back. I think that's a good call. That'd be the one that I would make personally. What about you?
Yeah, I think Willie's on a good strategy here. I mean, he is going to maybe lose a couple places just right off the rip here, especially in the first 3 laps. But as you do see that move from Vargas, it was very, very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Opportunistic. There we go. It's very rare that you're going to make a move right through there unless you're cutting the inside corner. But we do see on here Lewis chasing down Gargatti on here, and the DRS is going to be enabled this lap, so we are going to see that rear wing open down the main straight here. It is going to be a very easy pass. I don't think he even has it open, actually. That's very surprising. But he does make the move cleanly into turn 1, so that's amazing.
And gets it done just like that. We'll keep an eye when that DRS does open. It may potentially be to the old rules after lap 3 that we these drivers finally get the opportunity to use it. We have a little side-by-side battle here. A little bit of curb whacking there in this side-by-side fight between Zavala and Marcel. We saw Marcel get that move done there. Zavala dropping back. He was the one with the hop, skip, and a jump as he headed his way over the curbs, heading off through turn number 1. Turn 1 here at Monza recently underwent some pretty big alterations, widening the track, kind of flattening the curbs, adding in small little patches of gravel, because clearly that is a good idea. I don't know why F1 started doing that. They did that in the Red Bull Ring, and it's just become an epidemic ever since. But that turn 1 chicane, even if it's in its new reconfigured form, is still such a menace.
It is, and honestly, it does look pretty wide when you're watching it on the broadcast, but when you're in the car and you're coming at it at, blinding speeds, it is so narrow. Just getting that wheel cranked during that turn 1, turn 2 chicane there, it does really, the track really does shorten up, especially when your tires are degrading. So they are going to have to watch that. They're going to get a little loose through here. They might even go down to gear 1 at certain points, in which case they're going to have to watch for that tire spin, especially with those tires degrading and the track temp ramping up too. But the track is getting more rubbered in, so that might make it a little bit of a difference, or make it more slippery, especially with this high heat.
And we ride on board with Zavala. Interesting note there based off the other lights on the wheel. Able to open up the DRS, but he chose not to. Heading his way down the start-finish straightaway. Still able to get that move done, so he jumps his way up into P14 once more. Interesting point to raise. Those curious, whenever we jump onto an onboard shot and you see the green lights there on the wheel next to the rev lights, if there is one on, that means they're approaching a DRS zone and they have the opportunity to use it. Once that second light turns on, there's trouble there. Heading it to turn number 1, trying to figure out who that was in trouble. That is Ray. Unfortunate. Big lockup heading down to turn number 1 and going to lose control. We'll touch on this here in a few moments' time. But if you have 2 lights on, that means that you can open up the DRS, and then once all 4 are turned on, that means that the driver is fully on the bun. Taking a look there at Ray. Bad rear lockup heading into 1.
Yeah, it looks like he just had a little too much rear brake bias there. I understand that the drivers may want to, have that rear brake bias just so they could brake a little bit later, but especially as these fuel loads start to, come down. I know it's the beginning of the race, but as those fuel loads start to come down, you are going to want to move that bias more toward the front, get the car slowed down before especially a high speed braking zone like that. And as we look on board with Zavala too, he does have a little bit of a snap into Parabolica, and that is what they are going to have to watch out for through the course of this race too, especially as it starts to get a little bit more gunky on track.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants a Leclerc 2020 yet. That was a pretty nasty impact when I saw that go down, and nobody wants to replicate that here in the sim. Doubly so considering those tire bundles are not exactly soft and cuddly like a teddy bear in the simulator. They aren't in real life, but the point remains either way. Keeping our eye on Frank Chia now coming out of the pits himself there. So one of the first drivers come down pit lane here, as keeping our eye on our top running spots. Dirkson has been able to hold on to P2 as it stands right now. The only driver inside of the top 6 running on the mediums, which is an odd little note considering the mediums, I would say, are probably the most popular tire, certainly outside of the hards.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, we see Mario Diavolo. I think he's the only one on track currently with the softs starting on them. And, he did gain quite a few positions, but, especially with these high fuel loads, I think it's much better to save those softs till a little bit later. But we are seeing a lot of these drivers carrying on with those mediums. I think it is the right choice for this stage, but, Nicholas Kingswell was actually overtaken by Dirkson. Nicholas Kingswell was in P2 for a little bit of time, but Dirkson came back while he has the benefit of the grip on those tires. But as we move towards, the halfway point of this race, that is going to change a little bit as we see a puff of smoke over there from someone maybe locking up, maybe going off track. There is a little bit of dirt at the end of turn 2 there, so especially when they're laying the power down, it might have a little bit of spin.
Yeah, already accumulating a whole lot of gravel around this racetrack. As you can see it on the wheels of Jeffrey Lawler, who's led all of the laps so far here. But right now, the American in that Nexus eSports number 8 machine feeling some pressure. Dirkson, as we mentioned a little bit earlier on, running on the medium tires, trying to lay on the pressure as thick as icing on top of a wedding cake here in this fight between the two. Gotta wonder whether Dirkson is eyeballing a move to jump into the race lead. I'm sure that he is not enjoying the way the dirty air is feeling on the front end of that race car. He's been able to make up a storming amount of time just this past lap alone. He's going to be able to use DRS heading down the start-finish straightaway, and this could be what gives us a swap of the lead. Following Dirkson right now, heading his way into turn number 1. Big run, big block there from Lawler, covering down on the inside line, and that is going to be Lawler still holding on to that top spot, but Dirkson not going to give up yet.
And it is very rare that Lawler feels the pressure, especially with last season. So this is super refreshing to see. I'm very curious to see how Lawler is on the defensive. It's usually blue flags in front of them that have to move out of the way. But, you know, Dirkson is really putting on the pressure. And this is exciting to see as we do see that gap sort of build down and build back up again. 0.6 between them. It was about 0.2 on the straight. Lawler did move his car toward the center. Excellent maneuver there just to make the block. But you do see Dirkson trying to play some mind games too, moving towards the center, trying to bait Lawler into, you know, the sense that he may make a move down the inside, maybe get a little bit on the defensive and swoop into the inside himself. But only time will tell. We are only 7 laps into this race, so I have a feeling this is going to be a really exciting one.
Yeah, it has been a thrilling start to this season. Only 7 laps of 39 on the board right now, and we've got battles all throughout the pack. Here is one of note. It's a 3-car fight right towards the tail end of your top 10. It's Manuel Vargas holding on to P9, was just able to get the move done on Gregori just a few moments ago, heading into the second chicane. Now Willie Atkinson looking to get the move done here in the number 29 machine. So a little 3-pronged fight right now. I think, however, Vargas has been able to pull a massive margin north of 1.2 seconds heading down the stretch into Parabolica here in a couple of moments' time. We now ride on board with Zavala in the number 32 machine, maybe going to eyeball a move of his own, heading off into Parabolica. Parabolica would be a fantastic spot to get a move done if it wasn't for the massive start-finish straightaway that immediately follows it.
Exactly. I had a feeling he was just trying to play some mind games, try to get him offline into Parabolica, as we do see the move here by Atkinson, and he does get it done against Gargotti. But Atkinson, you see that tail sweeping out there from, oh, and my lord, that is Zavala actually going into turn 1, locking up. I'm not sure if that was a lockup or if maybe that was just, you know, snap oversteer getting into the corner, but, you know, thrilling stuff. 2 moves into 1 corner, 2 different drivers.
Yeah, so keeping our eye on these braking zones, keeping our eye on the battle for the race lead, which is starting to get tense once more. Dirkson looking for it here on Lawler, not going for it, heading into Parabolica, going to enjoy the slipstream, enjoy the draft, try and get a good run, heading onto the start-finish straightaway, and you can see he is hunting that slipstream. Rear wing going to be open right about now. That gap's going to close up 0.3 of a second, make that 2.5, make that about 2 here very, very soon. Dirkson not going to go for it, though. Closes up the gap a lot through the braking zone, but not able to get a move done here quite yet. Dirkson in those mediums, it is very easy, certainly compared to Lawler on the hards, to overclock those yellow sidewall tires just a bit. I think he's pacing himself very, very well here in the early stages, not attacking this too much. It's a passive-aggressive fight that we've got right now. Dirkson will probably go for the move if the opportunity is a real slam dunk shot, but he's not going to put himself in harm's way for it.
Yeah, and I feel like Lawler is playing a little bit of a Max Lewis game, and I believe it was Qatar in Lusail, actually, when they were playing around with that DRS at the very end of the season there, and that's what Lawler's doing. He knows that Dirkson does have the pace to go past him before Parabolica, but he's purposely slowing down. But Dirkson sees this too, trying to follow close behind Lawler, but I feel like Lawler did actually have, you know, some extra ERS to play around with into the main straight there, as the gap is really coming down. This is the second time that they are playing this game, as we do see this rear end with Lawler here. You do see that dirty air too. Dirkson trying to follow close behind. The gap is 0.2 of a second This is the exact same gap as before, so hopefully Dirkson has a little bit of extra juice in that ERS, and that gap is climbing down. Lawler moving towards the center here, trying to break the slipstream as we do get to the braking zone, and he just has to follow. Oh my god, they are so close, and this is great racing between them. I think these guys raced together before, so it should be pretty fun for them.
Yeah, and this is going to be a real interesting battle, especially if these two find themselves in battle after battle all throughout this 15-round championship. We are going to be in store for a thriller here on VOR throughout this season. I do want to raise this here right now, keeping our eye on this top two. Not really seeing Lucas Dirkson fight too hard for that spot. There was something I noticed in practice earlier on, Mark, and I want to raise this with you. The rear locking is pretty bad heading into turn at number one, really all throughout the heavy braking zones. I've seen it into Ascari. I've certainly seen it into turn number one. We've already seen that a couple of times here in this race. These cars stop on a dime. The carbon ceramic brakes certainly help out in that regard, but I wonder if the fear of a rear lock and a probable spin that will follow is part of the reason why Dirkson not really attacking him too much.
I think it is because, these are super early stages of the race too, and Dirkson knows those mediums might fall off around lap 15, so I think he's just trying to get as close to Lawler as possible without pushing him. You see him just following along with that DRS. As you mentioned, he isn't trying to... You know what? Speak of the devil. He actually did try to make a move there, but I think he's trying to make the most of these and make them go long. But I think most of the other drivers may have their brake bias a little bit too much to the rears. I know Lawler usually has his a little bit more to the fronts, around the 56, maybe even 57 range for the brake bias. So I think it is pretty important to have it set more forward than back. But I do understand that, with the brake bias a little more toward the rear, you're going to save a little bit more tires, especially into those heavy braking zones. So it's a very, complicated payoff in this case, but I think the front runners are making this work to their advantage.
And a lot of the times, the braking bias can be really just a matter of driver preference. As here we go, Dirkson trying to get the move done, heading into Ascari, picked up the DRS, picked up the draft, and picks up the race lead. There you go, swap of spots. Jeffrey Lawler now into P2, and your race leader now is Lucas Dirkson. Lucas Valentine Dirkson, the full name, and I'll tell you what, he's going to be falling in love with that clean air.
Yeah, that was a beautiful move, and honestly, he needs to run away right now. So if he saved any of ERS deployment, he's got to put that on right now, because Lawler is now hunting, and this is what he's great at. He loves putting the pressure on, and he loves that psychological mind game. So, you know what? We see it right there. Lawler does make the move, but they are going side by side, and he does push Dirkson off.
And Dirkson, I think, spun around there. Yes, he did. That's going to give P2 of this race to Kingswell. Disaster for your at 1 point race leader. He's now going to fall down to third and will rapidly fall into the clutches of Flukinger as that battle will now intensify for the final podium spot. There's the contact, and there he is looping it around over that sausage curb. Usually call those the overcooked sausage curbs because you chip your teeth on both. Keep an eye on that contact there and just looping it around just like that. You can go side by side through turn number one here at Monza, but the chances of that going down cleanly are about as realistic as your chances of getting struck by lightning twice in a single day.
Yeah, and you know what? That's going to be up for the stewards to decide. So we'll see what the what the verdict is later. But I think there could have been some room left there for sure. But it was, it was a pretty hard defending maneuvers. We're on board with Dirkson again, and he's right behind Flukiger now. So Flukiger in trouble, but I wonder how those mediums are currently doing after that spin. It doesn't look like either of them got any damage. I mean, we haven't seen Lawler's car yet, but Dirkson's car looks fine from hopping over that massive curb. So, hopefully he doesn't have to box for anything in particular, but he seems to be doing just fine. On the hunt still, trying to get past Flukiger for P3, but yeah, very curious to see what that steward verdict's going to be.
Yeah, and hunting forward around the outside, heading into turn number one. Deja vu. He's just been in this place before, and Dirkson now going to jump back up into the podium, able to get it done. I was looking at the front end of that race car of the 096 of Dirkson. No front wing damage, which is certainly a blessing. Got to wonder how the underside of that car is certainly feeling. The the downforce generated by the floor of these cars is nowhere near as strong as this car's, older, well, I guess it would be younger sister, the Mercedes W13. Back in this generation of F1 cars, it was pretty much thirds split. So it was 33% of the downforce generated by the front wing, another 33 by the floor, and the other 33 by the rear wing. So it was pretty split all in all. So thankfully, with a little wild ride like that, the handling won't get too badly affected, but it is still modern Grand Prix racing. Those floors are designed with a lot of small little aerodynamic bits for a good reason. It is the best spot to try and capitalize, best spot to try and make some downforce. So if that small little bit of the race car is compromised there for Dirkson, this may be a real tough road ahead, as he's actually got to break away and come down pit lane. Fascinating notes as a medium runner stopping before the hards.
Yeah, and I think he's going to try to go long here. So I think that's probably his best move at the current moment, too. He's going to start to bleed some time pretty soon on those mediums, and I do think he feels like they're starting to fall off. Luckily, his pit box is very close to the front, but as you were saying, too, the benefit of these cars is they don't have the ground effect that the current F1, well, previous generation F1 cars that we're talking this year's F1 are going to do, and those are actually the softs. So, wow, okay, I was not expecting that, but now I'm very excited. This is great. I wonder if he's going to go for a two-stop strategy. He has to. I don't think they're going to last. What is that? 25 laps. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think he's going to try to capitalize, get his way back to P2, and still be on the hunt for Lawler. It might be about a 19-second gap, but let's see if he can chip away at that.
The English language is a wonderful thing, because I'm looking at that call to come down pit lane for soft tires, and I'm thinking two words just pronounced very differently. A huh or a huh? As we see Samuel Ray in trouble up against the fence. Big contact, and that'll just about end his night. Heading off through the Ascari chicane. If it goes wrong through there, it's going to end in tears, unfortunately for Ray. That's going to be a big hit into the wall. Now, we still do have that one fast repair here in this series. Not sure whether that driver used it earlier on or not, but certainly will have to in that case.
I just had a flashback because that exact same move happened to me in LMP2 officials. So I feel his pain. If there's a little bit of gravel just right there into the entrance of Ascari, that is going to happen. So it's super unfortunate for him. But as you mentioned, luckily there is one fast repair. I wasn't that fortunate in my case, but there is a lot of gravel on this track. You got to be feeling for these drivers at this point, just praying for a clean track. But, you got to take it as you get it.
Yeah, one man who's I was just going to say, one man who's very happy about how things have come his way is Jeffrey Lawler, holding on to that top spot. Now, you mentioned him a little bit earlier on in the broadcast, Mark. Kingswell holding on to that P2 spot, not really letting Lawler run away, currently holding on to a 1.1 second margin between the two of them. And I gotta wonder whether Nicholas Kingswell, the Canadian behind the wheel of that number 18 car, has got to look for it on that 8.
He will. So I raced with Kingswell a few seasons ago, and he is blindingly fast, close to, if not as fast or faster than Lawler in quite a lot of these tracks. And as you mentioned, he is doing really well with those tires. It seems like that gap is coming down a little bit. So Lawler seems to be maybe either just trying to take it a little bit easier on these tires to go a little bit longer to bring down that stint on those softs to maximize it. But Kingswell is going to push him. They are, I think, or have raced on the same team, so they know how each other kind of battle it out or defend on track. So this should get interesting as well. But let's not still discount Leon Flukiger or Dirkson, for that matter, who is on those softs, making his way through the field. Brought that gap down from about 31 seconds to 28, but I still think it's going to be a two-stop strategy for him, and I hope it pays off, as we see Hinchcliffe, I think, coming into the pits as well. So, yeah. That's going to be interesting. He might be going on to the... Oh, no, never mind. Sorry. I was mistaken. But yeah, no. So the front four are currently running on hards. They're trying to play the long game, bring down that stint on the softs for their pit stop to maybe around 9-10 laps to really extract the pace on that light fuel load, because they are going to be pushing it toward the end.
And so as we rapidly close in upon the halfway mark of this event, we're already seeing the driver strategize both through the pit lane and out there on the circuit itself. As we see a nice little swaparoo there heading into turn number 1. Zavala on the charge once more, as I believe trouble has befallen Hinchcliffe there, as he's sunk down just a little bit more here in this race, as Lucas Dirkson and Keller now side by side here heading into Parabolica, and Keller going to take that spot at least temporarily. Dirkson on the massive cutback there on the softs, able to make things work out well. We look at the pace of Dirkson thinking, man, he's really strong. But we also have to remember the fact that he is on those soft tires, which is a call that I'm still kind of wrapping my head around. I think the two-stop strategy could work here at Monza, but
and I think what's going to happen is he's going to make those softs run until Lawler and Kingswell also go on their softs. So he is going to still be the same amount of time down, but by how much is really going to be the determining factor. And as we take a look at a replay with Alec Hinchcliffe here, you did mention that there might have been something going on. He is going a little bit wide there, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but he is currently running in 6th, so great result for him. But as you mentioned, Marcus Keller too, he was rapid in Hockenheim, so I don't want to discount him either. I've seen what he can do on that track, and it was fantastic, So again, I think we're in for a really, really fun season here, so very excited to see what's going to come of this race. And yeah, the gap from Dirkson to the leader is now 27 seconds, so time chipping away a little bit more. The gap between Lawler and Kingswell has gone up just a little bit. They might be trying to save their tires, as this heat probably is still around the 113-degree mark. But again, the gravel at the end of every one of these corners, it's not going to be doing them any sort of, favors.
Yeah, and it's something that we've had to worry about a little bit less over time here on iRacing. I remember when they first brought out these new reworked gravel physics right towards the end of the 2024 calendar year at the start of Season 1 of 2025, and how easy it was for a turn just to turn into a rally special stage. I remember covering a Formula V race at Brands Hatch shortly after that update was brought out, and turn number 2 there was just absolutely caked in gravel. Now, there are many parts of this racetrack that if you do run wide, these hot and sticky Mercedes W12 tires will just pick up an entire sandbag on the wheels. But it's certainly a lot better than it once was. There'd be certain parts of the racetrack that'd be more stoned than a background dancer in a Snoop Dogg music video. As side by side, nearly heading off into turn number 1, these drivers, I think, are finally growing a bit more comfortable with getting moves off in there. We mentioned the worries about braking a little bit earlier on here. I think as these drivers find their comfort zone with the track, they're certainly getting a lot more comfortable with that pedal on the left-hand side.
Yeah, absolutely. And, turn 1 is a great place to do it. I mean, as soon as you get that inside line into turn 1, you're just going to run away. There are no DRS zones until probably the mid and will start to end portions of this track. So you're relatively safe, especially if you can lose them into turn 3, and turn 4, and into the Lesmos as well. So as we do see, that is just rapid through there with the DRS wide open. You got the inside line into Ascari here. So again, you got to be a little bit careful. There is a false sense of security, especially when you're going into Ascari. You could probably tell I'm a little bit traumatized by it, but especially when you were kind of talking about the tires with the gravel being caked on, let's not also forget that into Parabolica, if you're coming out and you do get on that AstroTurf just a little bit wrong, that can actually send your car spinning out too. So it is a little bit tricky, especially with these temps and this level of degradation, as you do see that driver there getting a little squirrely as he got onto the AstroTurf, and into the pits he goes. And that's Bustamante coming in for a pit stop, probably changing to hards at this point with 20 laps to go left in this race.
Yeah, so let's keep an eye to see what he does there. Just past the halfway mark, so maybe gonna potentially gamble for some softs. No, hards. That's got to be the call. Gotta wonder what is the longest anybody will be able to run the softs here in this race, as we've been just beating these cars around the track and beating up this racetrack as well. We've gone up to 119 degrees Fahrenheit for that track temp. So it's about the peak that we had in qualifying, still with half of this race left to go. And as we move farther along in the afternoon, just at the peak of the day, 2 o'clock p.m. in sim time, we're still keeping our eye on this as we go throughout. Hottest track temperatures I ever saw on iRacing got north of about 160 degrees Fahrenheit, which I didn't even know was possible. But the power of about 40 Porsche Cup cars around Road Atlanta.
At Road Atlanta, okay, I was expecting something like Bathurst, in Australia. I could expect that, but I do remember Bathurst 12, I think it was 2 years ago, was an absolute monsoon. And I was in the Mustang at the time, and there was zero grip. That was when the Mustang was absolutely diabolical to drive, just zero grip compared to any of the other GT3 cars. It was a miracle that I made it out alive and finished in 8th, no doubt. And that's Jeffrey Lawler still running on those hards. But we did see Mario Diavolo actually running on those softs at the very beginning of this lap. And R. Lewis looks like he changed to softs, so he thinks they can go for 18 laps on this. But Diavolo started on those softs, and, I think he only ran them for about 7 to 8 laps before coming in for the pits for the mediums. So I'm not sure if he thinks that those mediums are going to last till the end of the race. Dirkson pitted around, I think it was maybe lap 10, lap 11 when there was that incident with Lawler. So we'll keep an eye on him and see how long those softs last. But I do think he is going to pit when Lawler goes to pit. So probably in about 7 to 8 laps time.
Yeah, just to wrap up on the point that you were raising there about the Bathurst 12, was that was the 2025 running that you were speaking about there, correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I have my own associations with that as well. That was one of the first ever iRacing special events that I got the opportunity to do lead commentary on. My immediate lead-in was the man himself, Arjuna Kankapati, so I was having a panic attack even before we went live. And that race was absolutely soaking wet during my stint, and along with dealing with the nerves of commentating that race for, I think it was a 3 or 4 hour stint that I did during that, I was also having to worry about the YouTube chat, which was not very happy about that race being soaked with the top split broadcast action and whatever time slot it ended up being that year. But I gotta say, as somebody who enjoyed rain racing a whole lot back when he was still running in karts and enjoys it a whole lot in sim, I can partially understand why people really hate rain racing, both for the fact that it does kind of tend people's PCs to crash sometimes. I've seen that on a couple of occasions. I even had one leak that flat out, there's trouble for Zavala.
Oh, yeah. And again, I think that gravel just does play into that, but great on him for that save. That could have ended a lot worse, but, I expect those hards are screaming in pain now. If they had the ability to flat spot these tires in this sim, I think those would be kaput by now. But as we see him go through turn 2 or turn 3 here, as he get to the braking zone, he just took a little bit too much of the curb on the inside, I feel. And then those rears, as soon as they got on the exit curb there, just tried to light it up a little too quickly, and he just kind of lost him right there, especially with that gravel. But great save, but those tire temps are probably spiked.
Oh, and that is not what you want heading off into the Lesmos, because that is probably the section of this track that tests the tires the most. It's in that wonderful medium speed range of not being too quick enough for the downforce to work and not being so slow that you can just go through there at 50 miles an hour. That's
sorry, go ahead.
It just beats those tires to a pulp.
Yeah, especially with the DRS zone right after those Lesmos too. He's going to be praying that he still keeps the lead, but he is still intense. So I don't think he lost any positions. I could be wrong, but you do see some action back there with. Actually, no, it looks like that's Alan coming in for a pit, I think. But yeah, no, with Bathurst 12, I totally resonate with your sentiments there, but. Yeah, I mean, I remember when the Mustang wasn't, the meta car, especially in fixed GT3 races. So I just went with it because I was like, oh, new car. I love the sound of the V8. It was a horrible idea for that race. But glad to see the Mustangs doing better now because I am a big fan, though I am a Mercedes-AMG GT3 driver myself. I just love the way that car sounds. I didn't use it for Bathurst specifically because I wanted to try the Mustang, and a little bit of a mistake. I'm glad I did it though.
I'll tell you what, that Mustang is one cool looking race car and good sounding as well. I say this with a slightly pained expression as a GM guy. It is a fantastic, fantastic GT3 car, and I've gotten the opportunity to cover many a racer do well in it over the past couple of seasons that it's really come into its own on iRacing. Kind of had a reverse trajectory of most GT3 cars that start off really strong and then get BOP'd into oblivion, only to bounce back to be a mediocre car a little bit later on. That car started off slow and then really gained momentum, kind of similar to its own tenure in real life, but I digress. Riding on board with Jeffrey Lawler, again, a fantastic view of how well he executes a lap here at Monza. You know, it may not be the busiest lap, it may not have the most amount of turns, it may not be the longest of the ones we'll be running at this season, but this 11-turn track, as storied as it is, it still packs a punch, and it's a pretty busy ride here in these W12s.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just super nice riding on board with Lawler too, and seeing the lines he takes through here, and you can see he's using every inch of this track right now, and you know, he still feels super comfortable on those hards. As we do see him about to cross the start finish here. You know, that is the quickest line through Monza. I thought it was going to be an off track the first time I did it. Turns out it's not, so completely legal in the sim, so that is perfectly fine. As we get down towards turn 1 here, you see him brake just a little bit past that 100-meter board, cutting over the curb here, cutting over the curb there. That is the line to take and the quickest way around the first 3 turns of this track, as we ride on board now with Rakeem Lewis in a battle with Gargotti right now. And it doesn't look like he has the DR. Oh, he does have the DRS open. And you know what? Like, that is the deception of these low downforce trims, because you just, the wings are already sitting so low, you have no idea whether it's open or closed. But he is on those softs, and I have a feeling he just pipped for those, so he's making up positions. Hopefully those tires last him till the end of the race. The softs usually do give out on their pace potential, usually around the 5th or 6th lap, in my opinion. But then again, I am not the fastest racer in this league, so very curious to see how he does this. That's someone going off in the gravel, and we do see Vargas getting back on, and Lewis, loses his advantage against Vargas, and he is now battling it out with Vargas still, actually, or is that McCarbell? No, that is McCarbell. I'm sorry.
And now keep an eye on Gargotti there, as we're running on board with that driver of the 013 machine, heading our way off through the top end of the racetrack, side by side. Small little hop, skipping a jump there that I believe is Vargas, careening his way down the running order. I think there may have been a little bit of contact there with Iyad Gargotti, as could see those two cars were getting very familiar with each other out there on the track. Here's a replay to show you really how it all set up. This was heading out of the second Lesmo onto this back straightaway. Not a lot of room to run or hide here, especially as you head your way under the old oval. Here we go, Gargotti following his perspective here, running fine. It was Vargas up the track in front of him, and no contact being made, although thankfully those drivers taking discretion as a better part of valor prevented any contact being made.
Yeah, and you know, that was Vargas that went off there, and you know, the stewards might be looking at that too. I mean, that did seem like a little bit of a unsafe rejoin, and unfortunately Gargotti was just you know, in the wrong place, wrong time there. Had to slow up massively and just hop over into Ascari there, so I'm not sure whether that's a slowdown in the sim, but you know, great to see everyone got out of there unscathed. That was a massive DRS train, so you know, great to see that these drivers are being super respectful, especially with their racecraft and just awareness overall. This is great. Honestly, there was like 0 incidents into turn 1, so I am so happy for this league.
It's been a very good start to this season. It's been super duper competitive, and it has been very, very fun as well, as Kingswell has been able to jump up into the top spot. Nicholas Kingswell, now your race leader, and the reason why that is the case here tonight is because Jeffrey Lawler has come down pit lane at last, finally making the switch away from those hards, going on to the softs. So this could be the point where that number 8 car really comes alive.
Yeah, and we'll keep a close eye on Dirkson too, because I think he was going to probably pit as soon as, Lawler started to pit as well, as we do see that Willie Atkinson got the move there on Lewis. But it's going to be a very close one now. There's only two cars between Dirkson and Lawler. So I have a feeling maybe within the next 1 or 2 laps, Dirkson might look to make a move. Hinchcliffe's still on those mediums, and I think he actually just came in right now. But we'll have a look on that later.
Ooh, as Lewis with a bit of a sideways snap heading his way out of the chicane. No harm, no foul done there. Kingswell, your race leader, but we're now on pit watch to see when he finally breaks away and comes down pit lane. Gotta say, this is a very different kind of race than what we saw towards the tail end of last season. To those keen viewers here in the Apex Hunters Motorsports lore, I guess would probably be the best way to sum it up. Towards the tail end of last season, this series was being broadcasted over on another network, and it was my first 2 shows covering this fantastic league. And not only did we see Jeffrey Lawler really dominate those races, we also saw tire fall off really be non-existent. We saw drivers setting their fastest laps of a race right towards the tail end of their tire stint. Not seeing that here, as Nicholas Kingswell has finally broken away and come down pit lane here to switch off onto the soft tires, set his fastest lap of the race on lap 3. Compared to the Nürburgring and the Red Bull Ring towards the tail end of last season, that is a complete opposite kind of deal. Also helps the fact that the track temperatures are as scorching as they are.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think last year with last season, I mean, it was the same year. What am I talking about? But at the Nürburgring especially, the track temps were, I think, very low. I think they were about 18 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but very low. Probably around the 70s, 60s, let's say something like that. But you see exactly what the undercut did there. So Lawler, with the benefit of that undercut, gained 7 seconds on Kingswell by swapping 1 lap earlier. So that is massive around this track, and that's something to keep an eye on, especially for people who have yet to pit. But I think everyone maybe has made their pit stop at this point in time. So I do see that there may be, a little bit of jostling for position, maybe around the midfield. But, as we see Vargas and Bustamante pretty close together as well, and Lewis and McCarbell as well in on a battle themselves. But I feel like that front grid has maybe set in stone unless Dirkson can make a move on Flukiger to get back on the podium.
Yeah, it has to close up an 8.2 second margin in the final 10 laps to be able to do so, which, considering the pace that we saw a little bit earlier on for Dirkson, that is not a completely impossible climb, but that is still a very steep cliff to try and circumnavigate as we get into the closing stages of this race. I think it's more realistic that we see a little swap-a-roo go on in this battle for 12th, 13th, and 14th right now. Gargatti holding on to that P12 spot. Vargas slotted in 13th with Bustamante completing your 14 car. Hey, boy, as that was a big block there being thrown heading out of that section. What in the world kind of yoinky spelunky maneuver was that going on there?
Yeah, and that's Vargas going very slow. I think he had to give that position back because they maybe both went on the grass, maybe both got some slowdown penalties. But this little he gets a little squirrely right over there. But that is strange.
I think I know what happened there. I think that was a miscommunication. We'll see this from Vargas' perspective. That's where the wheel spin kicks in. He tries to get out of harm's way and leave that door open there on the inside, but I think right there, I think it was just a bad miscommunication. One car wanted to go one way to try and get out of the way. The other car tried to follow in suit, and thankfully they did not collide, although that was very close to a pretty nasty accident.
Yeah, that was some very good avoidance on all their parts, actually. But it is nice to see that this little train running, especially in the midfield here. So it is super exciting, as we do see. I believe that's Alec Hinchcliffe looking for a move on Mario Diavolo here. So Diavolo's got to be on the very, very, very defensive right now, as Hinchcliffe is, I believe this is his 2nd or 3rd lap on those soft tires, and this is going to be the very crucial point for Alec if he can get past Diavolo right now, because that window for those softs, again, is very short. So you're going to have a few attacking laps on them, and it's crucial you make them, I believe, in the first 5 or 6 laps in my experience. And at that point, it starts to get a little bit more mucky, and you start getting more towards the medium tire sort of times. So if you can make this move last and pull away from Diavolo with about a 1 to 2 second lead, I think he's a very comfortable position in 6th for the race end.
And so as things settle down here at the current moment here for round number 1 of this season, we'll remind you folks as all the other action that we have here on Velocity Online Racing week in and week out. The IndyCar Open Series Euro Strength of Field will be at the Chicago Street Course on August the 18th. That'll be at 2200 Central European Summer Time. The Indy Euro Series will be on the channel live at Charlotte the day after. That'll be at 2030 there, Central European Standard Time, Central European Summer Time, pardon me. The VOR IndyCar Series will be back on the channel for round number 2 of their season at Michigan, with the iRacing Indy Next official series running at Chicago this upcoming week as well. That'll be live on the channel at 3 o'clock Central European Summer Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. And the International IndyCar League that we got the opportunity to cover a little bit earlier on here today at Iowa Speedway, that'll be at Auto Club later on here tonight, as after a wait of about 3,000 years, Alec Hinchcliffe was finally able to get the move done there on the soft tires, striking while the iron was not too hot. However, DeVillo is still looking for it around the outside, not able to get it done, so I think Hinchcliffe may have been able to ward off that challenge and finally break his way up into 6th.
Yeah, that was a fantastic move. Super brave into Ascari there as Hinchcliffe took the outside line, actually, but he could make that move because of the grip of those soft tires, and he was trying to break the slipstream against Diavolo there. Diavolo is still pretty close behind, but I think Hinchcliffe just has enough speed to, keep it in 6th position, so great move for his part.
Yeah, so good move there, just like that. I'll have to talk about more of the upcoming shows, and we'll be able to see him get some moves done later on here in this race. Let's stay with it and keep our eye on this pack, as Hinchcliffe was in the slipstream, tried to go for it heading off into Ascari, but wasn't able to. There you can see that was a brilliant move there to sweep around the outside, as that's the way you really get in your competitor's head, rattle their cage quite a lot by sweeping around the outside heading off into Ascari. That is, I think it's fair to say, a little bit of deception tactics there, because that's not really an overtaking spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is going to catch quite a lot of people off guard, and Diavolo had the right move there. I mean, I think he just slowed down a little bit because he knew the pass was coming, and maybe line up a move down the main straight. But if it is, your first time watching, any of these streams or F1 races in general, you do only get one defensive move. So if you saw Hinchcliffe move down to the inside towards Parabolica, that was his defensive move, and he would not be allowed another one just for safety reasons. So just for your knowledge, they only get one defensive move for that part. So if they make another one, you might have some thoughts and be like, that might be illegal. But I'm not a steward, so it's maybe not up to me to decide.
And I remember my 10 years as steward in a pretty big multi-class sports car series, and thankfully it's not a series that has ended up on Sim Racing Stewards, as somebody talking about an interesting call being made. I've had that happen for an event that I've commentated on over on another network, and that was I'm keeping tight-lipped about that for a very, very good reason. I could tell you that with confidence. But it was covered in a Jimmy Broadbent video, and
hilarious.
Yeah, Jimmy was just as befuddled as I was when I learned that the driver who picked up a penalty ended up getting a penalty. But regardless, from my experience in race control, I always saw it as the difference between a proactive move and a reactive move. If you go for a defensive spot and you just completely, okay, that driver's going for the inside, so I'm gonna push them down, that's a no-no. That's where you get the slap on the wrist.
Right, and it's got to be not into a braking zone in a Formula car case as well, right? And I think for any case, just a defensive move into a braking zone is never really a good idea. You are going to have the cases where you do just play the mind games. You take a peek down the inside or the outside, and then you do a switcheroo right at the end, try to take it. Very risky move, but very highly rewarding, and honestly, it looks cool. And yeah, that was strange. Just two drivers going by. I'm not sure whether he had a slowdown penalty, but that was not what I was expecting, to say the least, for that move. Still does get the DRS, and is that I think that's maybe Atkinson potentially who let those two drivers go by, but yeah, curious about that one.
Yeah, and Atkinson has been putting together a race. I'm not really sure what else we can say outside of that. He's been running in and around the top 10 throughout most. He's kind of in no man's land as it stands right now, but you know, that can certainly change here in the blink of an eye, and still expecting some changes as we get towards the end of this race. And once again, I want to thank you all for tuning into the action here on Velocity Online Racing here tonight. And folks, you'll be able to catch the action all season long here. So round number 2 of this championship will be live here on the channel, same time, same place at Circuit of the Americas next time out. Never miss out on the racing action by hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell. Hit the like button on the stream as well if you are enjoying it. That lets the YouTube algorithm do its lovely little thing. You know, the YouTube algorithm thing that I love, but it's a thing that I also have some nightmares about that. But take a look at that upcoming calendar. Circuit of the Americas, Spa, Miami, Nürburgring. I feel like Monza is probably the only one of those tracks that has less than 15 turns.
You know what? I think you're right. I'm trying to think right now, but you know what? No, Spielberg, I think, has 10. Or it might have 12. It is 10.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, that is. Yeah, see, I was looking at that, and I swear I was looking at the first 5 races of the season, but Spielberg, that's... I still contend that they should demote that back down to 9. Turn number 2 around that track being turn 2 for the motorcycles, that is...
Yeah, half of those aren't really turns, but nonetheless, I love the track. I'm not good at it, especially with that little amount of turns. I can't capitalize on anything. I was a solid midfield racer at this, in this league, so I had some pace, certain tracks, but I do have enough time behind the wheel, and I have raced with a lot of these guys, so I just racing with Lawler and Kingswell and Flukiger and stuff. It was just crazy how miles ahead they were, but you know what? It does inspire me to be a better driver. So, love watching them battle it out and seeing what they kind of do behind the wheel here, just so I can kind of pick up some of that myself, and maybe pray to the racing gods one day. Just give that iRating a little bit my way.
Yeah, when you get into managing iRating, that's when iRacing kind of feels less like a simulator, less like a game. I say that knowing fully well that some people may want to try and do God knows what to me after calling it a game. But that's when it starts to feel less like, an enjoyable recreational activity and more so like a, kind of like managing a business or something like that.
Like a job. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of does. It's like, sorry, I can't do this today. I need to do a couple more iRacing officials so I can get my iRating back up again here as we take a look at a nice little move here, side by side. I think our way down the start-finish straightaway. Nothing major, nothing huge. That's Gargatti jumping up into that P13 spot. Both drivers running on the medium tires as well. A tire that I think I'm a little bit shocked hasn't been used as much as I was expecting it to. I'm not sure about you, Mark, but I was expecting that medium to kind of be the tire of the day.
I was expecting the same thing, especially folks starting off on the hards. But, those hards are exceptional on this car. And, especially in this heat, too. I think especially with such a hot track, it takes them less time to fire up. So they probably outmatch the mediums in most cases here. But the mediums are still a very popular choice. There's only certain windows that you can necessarily use them. And I think the start of the race or, pitting from softs to mediums in Diavolo's case was exactly what he did. So everyone did want to get on those softs, toward the end of this race. And I'm very stunned because there are only 3 laps to go. So this race just absolutely flew by as someone goes in the gravel there. And I think that might have been Vargas following just a little too close behind. And the Lesmos maybe just forgot his braking marker there, just trying to keep an eye on the car in front. But yeah, no, this race has absolutely flown by. And you know what? It has been a very, very clean race as well. As we take a look at the replay into here, and that is Francica battling against Vargas. And Vargas is, again, following very close. Oh, sorry, that is Diavolo, actually. And those tires, yeah, he's had those mediums on for quite a while, so he just didn't have the room to run alongside and break into the corner there. As we take a look at our race leader, Jeffrey Lawler, which has led so many laps in this race. 35 to be exact. So our front runners at the current moment are Jeffrey Lawler, Nicholas Kingswell, Leon Flukiger, Dirkson, Marcus Keller, Alec Hinchcliffe, Frankie Francica, Mario Diavolo, Zavala, and Willie Atkinson make up your top 10 for this race.
2 laps left to go. It looks like this will be a dominating performance from Jeffrey Lawler to capture the victory here in round number 1 of this season. But I'll tell you what, I think compared to last season where he was having a look in that rear view mirror only to see thin air and dust, I think he's going to have a bit more of a challenge on his hands if he wants to try and go for back-to-back championship wins, and especially considering that mixed bag of a calendar that we have heading up. Lawler, that American behind the wheel of that number 8 machine, he's going to be in for quite the season, so we'll keep an eye on it as we go throughout. That was a little moment there with Vargas heading off through turn number 1. I believe that was himself, and DeVillo heading through turn number 1. We've seen a lot of sketchy moments heading off through that final chicane. Hey, we're getting into the closing stages. Had to have one more for the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like that pit stop exit, just, terrible position to just end it right where it does, because it's basically right at turn 1. I would probably end it a few hundred meters, maybe even 100 meters before, to allow people to get more alongside on the outside to just, and that is Rakeem Lewis going off track, but manages to get back on, sprinkling a little bit more gravel there just to make things extra spicy for the last lap of this race. And you see Diavolo, he had a little bit of an incident that we watched in the replay there. I think he picked up some front wing damage, so he did go into the pits, put on some softs, hope for the best, but I think he can get back up to 10th position here.
So the white flag is now out in the air. So one more lap of racing action here tonight for Jeffrey Lawler to try and complete the drive, and he's heading his way down the back straightaway through the final sector here in just a few moments' time. And what a performance it has been for not just him, but for everybody else. The entirety of your top 4, I think it's fair to say, have been strong contenders throughout. Really could have had a shot at a podium. Certainly in the case of Dirkson, may have had a shot to win, but sadly things just did not go his way. And so for round number 1 of this season, after leading close to lights to flag, Jeffrey Lawler going to head his way onto the start-finish straightaway to win here at Monza. He gets it done over Nicholas Kingswell, who will come across the stripe about 11 seconds back there in P2, and give a whole lot of flowers to Leon Flukiger, who's going to finish this race in 3rd when it's all said and done. Good performance for that driver of the number 99 machine, certainly starting off this season on the best note for many. Flukiger, another one of their very strong performers throughout this race, but not just the performances here, Mark. I feel like just the entire vibe from this opening race of the season, we're going to be in for a good little 15 race campaign here between now and December.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely excited. I mean, like the top 3, top 4 even in this first opening race here was insanely close, especially in qualifying. And Dirkson was just 2 seconds back from Flukiger, so I feel like if he pitted just a little bit earlier, or if he did the 2 pit stop strategy, he would be back on that podium. But I'm very excited to see Dirkson, Kingswell, Flukiger, and Lawler, gunning for that top position, because there appears to be quite a lot of competition now, especially for those front runners. Our midfield pack is absolutely phenomenal. Always a lot of exciting battles, but it's very refreshing to see some competition for Lawler at the front.
Yeah, so we shall take a look at your race results here for round number 1 of this season. Season 4 of the Apex Hunter Motorsports W12 League will go to our reigning champ. Jeffrey Lawler starts this season off the same way he ended last. He gets a victory over Nicholas Kingswell in P2. Leon Flukiger will round out your podium in 3rd. Lucas Valentine Dirkson fell in love with the race lead for the brief period of time that he had it, but it was summer love and it was fleeting as he lost out and never really jumped back into a podium for an extended period of time. He ends up 1 spot out in 4th. A good performance for him. Really going to be keeping our eyes on that driver of the 096 car. Marcus Keller will be in P5. Alec Hinchcliffe, series admin, will be in 6th. Francicia will finish this race in P7, pardon me, with Maurizio Zavala in P8. Willie Atkinson will finish this race in 9th. Cesar Bustamante will complete your top 10. And then looking from there, Mario Diavallo will finish this race in 11th. Manuel Vargas will be in 12th. Iad Gargado will finish this race in lucky spot P13 in front of Raheem Lewis in 14th. Jesus Marcabel will finish this race in P15. Philip Allen is 16th. Finishing this race in P17 will be Eugenio Bayer Villarreal. Willis Gomez will be in 18th. Samuel Justin Ray comes across the stripe in P19, actually dropped out in the later stages. So too did Keaton Jensen. And then completing her race here tonight will be Aiden Ray in the 828 car and Pablo Veloenza Uribe, who I don't believe took the start. 22 drivers took to the green flag here tonight. Many of them did see the checkered flag and put together a strong opening race here to get this season up rocking and rolling. And let's get the interviews rocking and rolling here by having a chat with our race winner. Joining us here in the broadcast booth now is our reigning champ and our race winner here, Jeffrey Lawler. Jeffrey, welcome into the broadcast booth. Congratulations on the win. That looked like a pretty fun one, having a fight throughout. How was it out there at Monza?
Well, I was hoping I could get home before this race to actually get laps in, and I was able to do one lap. So I wouldn't say I'm very prepared. And then to make matters worse, I also was running out of fuel. So like the last 9 laps, I was fuel saving.
Oh, no. Okay.
It was a shame that I was having a good battle with Lucas. It was actually pretty fun. It was nice to have some competition for once.
I was going to say,
it ended like the way it did.
I was going to say, did you race with Lucas at all before, or is he just a newcomer who showed up?
Race him in GTPs and officials like Enzo, and I've posted invites in a lot of places, and he ended up joining. But I've been trying to get some quick people to do it. It's just can't force people to do if they don't want to, So
that's fair. But honestly, it was very refreshing to see some competition, especially with the qualifying results. Only about a 10th between you two. So, on the race start, I was fully saying and I was preaching. I was like, Lawler always goes on the mediums, tries to go for the medium soft strategy, but then you just completely, blew that out of the water and you went hard. So what was the decision between mediums and hards, especially for this track?
Like I said, I just didn't have a lot of laps for this round. So I kind of just looked at the track temp and just assumed hards would be a better strat. I think they were the better tire, but I think the mediums, because of how strong the DRS is here, you can kind of tow along if you keep a hold of it. But in a perfect world, the hards are better.
Yeah, I think that you made the right strategy overall. I think you had the ability to go super long. We were seeing some people on the mediums, just bleeding out some time toward the end of their stints there. But honestly, mega job, man. It was super fun to see you and, in a battle, especially for like the lead in the first few laps of the race. Any shout outs you want to give? Anything you want to say toward the end here?
Yeah, shout out to my teammate Nick. He actually did a good job for once, so we got a 1-2 there. Leon's also technically my teammate on my actual team, but not in here. So really, it was a Nexus all podium. But yeah, just shout out to you guys for broadcast and shout out to Alec. It's very fun.
Awesome, man. Well, congrats, and looking forward to seeing how you do in this season, and hopefully we get some competition coming your way.
Thank you very much.
And that right there was Jeffrey Lawler, our P2 finisher, P1 finisher, pardon me. Here's our P2 finisher. It's Nicholas Kingswell. And Mark, I'll pass the mic off to you to have a chat with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, congrats on P2. How do you feel about that result?
Thank you. It was good. As Jeff said, I actually delivered for him, and he was happy I didn't disappoint him for once. It was really good.
I was gassing you up the whole time. I was like, Nicholas Kingswell, I drove alongside him too, and you and Lawler just, run the field. So it was really refreshing to see, such close competition, especially toward the first couple stages of the race. There was a moment in time where you went up to P2 and you were about 1 second behind Jeff. I was kind of waiting for you to make the move. how was it on those hard tires? Did you wish you chose the mediums to put some pressure on? How do you feel about that?
The hard tires were definitely, it was sketchy. I think the hards and mediums were both like super sketchy just because the track time was like 46 Celsius.
Yeah.
But I basically was just kind of holding back from like I don't think I had the pace to get Jeff anyways. I was kind of just trying to hold up Lucas, but then I kind of just let him go and I didn't really make the right decision. And then obviously Jeff and Lucas kind of had a little Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton moment.
Yeah, they did.
So yeah, it was pretty good. The hards it was just sketchy all around. Like especially Ascari was very dangerous to just lose the rears. Especially the tire temps were like over 130 degrees, so it was really bad.
Yeah, there was a lot of gravel on the track too, and a lot of places looked super slippery, especially like Ascari, Lesmos as well. A lot of people going off there. There was a moment where you were leading the race, and Jeff pulled the plug, and he just went into the pitted for those softs, and you kind of followed right after. We noticed there was like a massive. So Jeff kind of ran away at that point, but. Was there a feeling that you may be able to bounce back from that and gain the time since you pitted a little later, or would you say that the undercut is a lot more powerful on this track, especially?
Yeah, I knew I was going to get undercut. The reason I stayed out was because there was a gaggle of lap cars and that Jeff barely cleared when he came out. And I didn't think I was going to clear them, and I did not want to get caught up in traffic. Like, there was like 5 cars all packed together, and I didn't want to deal with that. So I just went the extra. I knew I didn't really have the pace anyways because I was close on fuel, and Jeff was actually like negative on fuel when he was saving fuel. So
right.
We were just kind of 1-2 formation flying. I don't think I was going to catch him anyways, to be honest.
Well, honestly, you looked like you were flying us over here, man. So, like, great job, honestly. So, if you can give us a little bit of a sneak peek, so are there going to be any team orders for this season, or are you just going to go for the win every time?
I hopefully will go for the win, but I feel like it's more of a situation of Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, and I'm totally happy playing the Valtteri Bottas role. I'm just here for the team championship. Keep Jeff happy so he can send me money or something if I need it. So just trying to keep the teammates happy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly.
Well, we all love Bottas here, man, and we're all rooting for you. Honestly, great result. P2. Any shout outs you want to do before we sign off here?
Yeah, shout out to you guys. It's been pretty cool seeing like the broadcast is honestly really neat. Alec as well for actually putting on the league and doing everything. And then obviously my Leon as well. He's not on our team for this season, but he's part of Nexus. So all 3 of us, 1, 2, 3. It's been pretty good. And thank you guys for doing all you do.
Right on, man. Well, congrats, and we'll see you. See you later.
Thank you very much.
And that right there was our P2 finisher of Nicholas Kingswell joining us here in the broadcast booth. Mark, I think we have one more driver left to join us here, that being Leon Flukinger. We'll drag Leon into the booth to have a chat right now. Leon, welcome into the broadcast booth. Well done on the P3. That looked like a pretty fun race there at Monza. How was it from your perspective behind the wheel?
Pretty difficult with the high temperatures, saving the tires. Had a lot of trouble with not doing enough practice.
Yeah, I can imagine it was a pretty. I can imagine it was a pretty tough race to try and nail down. You mentioned the very high track temperatures throughout the race. How was the grip at there? Because I can imagine it was, for lack of any better terminology, pretty bad.
I mean, on any tire, the first five laps are fine, and after that, you have to be so careful on the throttle. You literally, and with all the gravel, like every 2 laps there was gravel in some corner. You literally couldn't accelerate like you're supposed to in the W12.
Right, and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it still works out well for you here, Leon. You end up with a P3. How does this bode for the rest of the season? What are your thoughts heading through the rest of this campaign?
I was a lot slower than I thought I was. Hopefully I'm going to pick it back up for next races. Whatever next race is. I think Imola.
I believe next round of the championship will be at Circuit of the Americas down there in Austin, Texas.
or even better, I got some revenge to Jeffrey to serve after he killed me last time we went there.
Well, there we go. That works out pretty all right, well for you there, Leon. So before we let you go and enjoy the ranch at Circuit of the Americas next time out, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs.
Shout out to Nexus and Jeff for giving me the setup.
Anyway, there you go, Leon. Thank you for joining us here in the broadcast booth. Congratulations on the P3, and we will see you in 1 week's time down there in Texas.
Yeah, thank you.
And that right there was Leon Flukinger, our P3 finisher. Well, thank all the drivers for having a chat with us, and thank you all once more for tuning into the action here on Velocity Online Racing tonight. Mark, I think this was a real compelling and really exciting start to this season. Final thoughts before we wrap things up.
Honestly, I echo those sentiments too, and I am very excited for Coda. I mean, you heard it from Leon himself. There is a vendetta on his hands. So next week, you're definitely going to want to tune in. But yeah, great opener. It's going to be a very competitive season. Honestly, I implore you all to watch. It's going to be super fun. So thank you again for joining us here. And, Ron, I'll let you close it off.
And absolutely, we have still got a lot of action coming up for you here on Velocity Online Racing. Every single day, it feels like, on the channel, we're bringing some more compelling and exciting action week in and week out. There you can see the schedule there in the bottom right-hand corner. The IndyCar Official Series, the Euro Strength of Field race, will be live on August the 18th. That's on the Chicago Street Course. The Indy Euro Series will be back on the channel there on August the 19th. The VOR IndyCar League will be back live Saturday, August the 22nd, followed by the Indy Next Cars running at Chicago. That'll be on August the 23rd if you're in Europe. However, for myself, at least in the States, that'll be on August the 22nd later on that night at about 9 Eastern time in the PM, with the International IndyCar League and the Apex Hunter Motorsports W12 League making up our new Sunday doubleheaders here on the channel. Taking a look at your schedule there, you can see the dates all listed out there, and you'll be able to see the action live here week in and week out on Velocity Online Racing. Never miss out on the action by hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notified every single time we go live. Hit that like button as well if you want the YouTube algorithm to do its thing. The next time you'll be able to see this series will be in 1 week's time when we rock up down there to Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and we hope to see you all there on August the 23rd here on the channel. But as for this broadcast here tonight for round number 1 of this brand new season, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Mark Samad joining me in the broadcast booth, Julien Altena working all the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production. All our thanks once more to TrackCams22.com for giving us the track cams. I say thank you also very much for tuning into the action here on Velocity Online Racing here tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.